If you can make pancakes, you can make concrete. Hey, it's John from Jon Fixes Everything, and today we're going to be doing a special project. We're going to be making concrete bases for mini split air conditioners. Now, forming concrete is something that anybody can do, and it's a total skill you should know how to do. Concrete is cheap, it's durable, and it's easy to work with if you follow a few steps. I'm going to show you that today. A couple things you're going to need. Obviously a speed square so that we can make nice square forms. Something to mark the area that we want to put the form in. A level to make sure that we're getting it all straight and level. Something to cut our forms with, so I'm just going to use a simple saw. And a wheelbarrow, a bucket, just about anything to mix our concrete in. A lot of people love to mix concrete in the hole. I don't follow that. I really don't think it makes it as strong as it can be, so we're going to get this process started. So because we're going to be doing some cutting, first things first, safety glasses. Going to need to have these safety glasses, protect our eyes. We're going to have lots of chips. We're going to have some pressure treated lumber here. So put these on first. Okay. Now the first dimension I'm worried about is 26.5 inches. At 26.5 inches, that's where the holes line up for my bases, for my AC. Now I'm going to want 3 inches on both sides of extra material. So I'm actually going to bump that up from 26.5 to 32.5 inches. So we're going to measure out 32.5 inches from the end of our board. And this is where that speed square comes in. Now I'm making this one exact because this is going to be the inside of our form. The other one we're going to be able to make a little bit different. There we go. Perfect. And I'm going to measure a line there, and we'll cut that off. There we go. Now, quick tip, save you a little time. Don't need to remeasure. Take the old board, especially the clean end, put it up here where we just cut, and we'll mark it again. Concrete is very forgiving. We don't have to be exact on all these. My other dimension is 15.9. So in this case, I'm actually going to go out again. I'm going to add 4 inches. So I'm going to go to 19.9. But I'm also going to want to account for the thickness of this board, which we know is 1.5 inches. So that's 3 inches that we have to add because of the way we're going to screw them. So it's going to be 15.9 plus 3 goes to 19.9 plus another 3 is 22.9. So 22, a little over 7/8. Next, I want to show you a tip that my friend Peter showed me. If you've got carpenter's pencils, and I would highly recommend getting the official carpenter pencil sharpener, you don't waste as much. I've always been sharpening them and then putting them in and grabbing them out and then having them the wrong way and having to flip them around. Now he showed me a trick that he does. He sharpens both ends because you never use all the way down to the nub anyway. But by sharpening both ends, your carpenter's pencil is ready to go regardless of which direction or hand you grab it from. So if you're doing a little cross draw, you got your carpenter pencil on this side, you're ready to go. So super simple tip. Thanks Peter for that tip. And now I have a carpenter's pencil that's ready to go on both ends. Okay. .22 7/8. Perfect. So that's going to allow us to make our form like so. So there's where my screw holes are going to be. Right here with a few inches to spare. And this way is going to be 16.5, a couple inches to spare that way. It doesn't all have to be brand new wood. In this case, I have a piece of scrap 2x8. It doesn't have to be pressure treated. I'm going to use this one to help me form it the same size. There we go. Now these are self-drilling, just regular construction screws. You don't have to have anything fancy. It's always nice to have deck screws and other stuff, but because this is a temporary form, I'm going to use the easiest thing I have, and I'm not pre-drilling these, even though it's potential to split. Small splits don't matter. A little small split's not going to do anything to us. A large split, we might have to deal with. Okay. Okay, perfect, we're ready. So that's our new form. Now I'm going to roughly lay it out here on the ground. So I have to have at least 18 inches over here for us to make connections. I'm going to give it a little bit more. Give it 21. That should give us enough there. Okay, another trick when you're going to be digging a hole and we need it to be pretty exact, just take some extra spray paint, whatever you got. Now we're So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to remove the top layer until I get to some, get anything with some vegetation that we'll get out of here. We want to get it to actually some raw dirt. Okay, and now we're going to quickly want to check for level here. A way we can do that is put a scrap piece of wood here, put our level. This is nice because then you don't ding up your level and you can kind of scrape back and forth and see where level is. It's tilting a little bit towards the house. Going a little bit out of on this side, and then this way, pretty close. Now the concrete is actually going to make up, its gravity is going to naturally level it out for us. So it's going to make up for a small amount, but we want to have a consistent thickness of our concrete. So we'll get this thing pretty close to level to begin with. Try to remove again the organics because those will biodegrade. And then your footing is not as strong as it can be. Now we don't have a thick frost line in Seattle, so I'm not worried about getting down. I'm not worried about frost heaving on this either because it's okay to move. Some people even mount these just simply to the wall. I like to mount them to the ground so they don't transfer any vibration into your home. Looks good. Now don't feel bad if this thing is sitting up a little bit proud here. It's actually going to be okay inside. You don't have to fill this with all brand new fresh concrete. I have a bunch of mortar that came out from a brick project we took off, and I'm gonna use that as a filler so I don't have to use as much concrete, and it gets rid of some junk that I don't need. Another trick, nice cold water to mix with your concrete. If you use hot water, some concretes will actually harden faster. Concrete is a mixture of Portland cement and gravel. And also in this case, I've got a kind of a dirty wheelbarrow. Just gonna rinse it out a little bit. It's gonna make my concrete that much more durable. Okay, this is a 60-pound bag of concrete mix. So it just needs water, you add that to it. We're gonna mix one bag at a time here just to show you how it's done. Now it says one bag makes about half a cubic foot. So that's enough to do a 6-inch by 12 by 12 area. We're gonna see if we can extend that a little bit by making it about 4 or 5 inches thick. Now, as you're starting out, start with very little water and then add. Now, I've done a lot of this, so I know that I'm gonna use up all this water, but I poured a little heavy there to begin with. What you're looking for, if you can make pancakes, you can make concrete. You're looking for a thick pancake batter. And my big thing is I don't like to see any of the dry. So you can see that wet stuff. Water will find the dry concrete. We're getting close to the texture we like. One rule of thumb is you can't take away water. You can only add it, so. Now, if you are going to use filler like I'm doing here, make sure that you tamp it out really good. And you get all the air bubbles and get the concrete to go underneath. That wouldn't even matter if you mixed it a little bit wet so that it would find the openings. And then when I'm going to drill, I'm going to try to keep these areas open of filler. I don't want too much filler where I'm going to be doing a future drilling with a roto hammer. But the concrete is just going to work around this mortar. And we're going to save ourselves buying new concrete, and we're going to get rid of some old building material. Now you can do this a couple ways. I'm actually going to mix a little bit more water in because I do, like I said, want it to go down in to any crevices with this first batch. So this is going to be a little bit runny on purpose. Okay, so that's how much one bag did. I'm estimating we're going to need at least a couple more. Now, concrete's got a pretty good working time. Check the bag to see how long it takes before it sets up. Some can be as little as an hour. This is pretty liquidy. Concrete can take up to 30 days to really fully harden. So if you're putting some heavy weight on concrete, it'll really plan to wait longer. And if you're trying to do a nice finish on it, what you'll find is the water will kind of skim to the top. And you can use tools, shovel like this, or just shaking the form to try to let it level out. Now you can tap the side of your form to help level things out, get bubbles down. There's a whole bunch going down in those holes there. Okay, need at least one more bag. Again, I'm shooting for final grade about there. And that water is incorporated. That's super runny for concrete, but I want it this way because I need it to go in to those pockets easier. And we're also going to finish it off a little bit, so I want a little bit more runny. This is where you can use your tools to kind of smooth the top out. And gravity and your hammer will naturally help this find level. The thinner it is, the easier that'll happen. And the water's going to naturally go to the top the more you work it. If you're trying to level out a larger area, got a piece right there that I can tell is not going to let me level as easily. Okay, and there we go. Now this is a great time if you got kids to do the old handprint trick. Okay, come over here. Can you do your hand, right? One hand in the middle, like this.
Okay, I'm gonna put mine right here.
Over here. Push. All the way down. Okay, pull it out. There you go, come on. Over here. So once I was all done here, I'm going to take the forms off. This is about 3 days later. You can see the concrete's still a little bit wet down at the bottom. And I'm going to start to reuse these forms for the smaller base. So I have a base for the 36K forehead unit. That's the big one you're seeing here. And it turned out pretty good. There's a little bit of waviness to the top, but the good news is it doesn't need to be perfect. And you can correct that really easily with just some more troweling and a little bit more prep when you're done and letting it dry. So here I'm going to do a little bit different style. So you can see one side's kind of sticking over. My interior measurements are where they need to be. So I'm going to go ahead and make a mark, and then I'm going to slide the form over to make sure that it's all square. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the first one here. I'm going to go ahead and mark out the red area where I want to dig out. I'm taking and getting rid of any of the organic material. The organic material, if you have a lot of wood or other stuff that's in there that dries and dies and work with the structural integrity, I'm going to go ahead and tamp it down as you saw there. And then I'm going to mix more concrete. So we're going to mix concrete. Now, I just happen to have some more broken up concrete laying around. And you can save a little bit of money this way. Make sure you mix it nice and soupy if you're going to do this, so that it can fill up those voids. You'll see in the final product, there's some little tiny voids on the edges. I'm not worried about that. It's not like an edge of a walkway that you might see. And get the kids involved in doing this. My daughter was really excited after she got to put the handprint in the first one. So, we got to mixing this and she was really excited to participate. And this one you see is a little bit soupier. I'm going to do a different take on this one. I'm actually going to embed the bolts because I know exactly where they need to be. So I'm going to make a little kind of a tiny form here for the bolts. I drilled some holes And then I'm going to go ahead and put the bolts through there. You're going to see that here in a second. Again, tap the sides because you want to knock all the air out. I got the first one in there, but my daughter's head was in the camera, so didn't get to see that. But you know, I spaced these out at exactly however many inches apart they were. And then I'm going to set the other course here up so that you can see it right next to it and get those nice and embedded. Now, to make sure that they're working, you want to make sure that the diagonal measurements are the same between the bolt heads. That's going to tell you that it's a perfect square. So even if it's not you know, exactly aligned front to back on both sides, if the diagonal measurements are the same and the widths are the same, it's going to be a perfect square and your unit's going to fit down just nicely right on top of it. And because we're going to let this dry in there and I don't want to have to try to do all the repairs to get it out of there, I'm going to double check my measurements as well. And then I'm going to remove the form. Now that's all done. And this is pretty straightforward and easy, just like we did on the other one. We'll take it apart. And this was only about a day, I think, that I let this sit because it didn't need to sit that long and I knew I might want to do some cleanup, especially with these forms the way I did them. So I'm going to take the bolts off and I'm going to pull the little wood that I used on there. And there was a little bit of a ridge and I didn't want to have that holding any water. So what I did is I just kind of knocked that down with the tool that I had. And you can do that really easily with a pry bar or scraper. And this is the multi-head Mr. Cool DIY 36K unit. This one has 4 heads that go on it and it's 36,000 BTU of cooling heating capacity. So I have a 24K already in the house and it works amazing. We bought this 4-head unit system to do the rest of the bedrooms in the house. And then we also have this little one here, this 120 volt 12K unit for a specific room. Well, that probably wasn't too lucky, was it? Hey, it's John from Jon Fixes Everything. Thank you for sticking around and watching this video. I've made the bases. They're very, very sturdy. They worked out really well. Hopefully I've shown you that concrete is easy to work with, it's affordable, and it's something that you can do yourself. My channel's pretty new. I don't have a lot of subscribers. If you can do me a favor, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. I've got a Mr. Cool 120 volt 12K mini split system that you can install yourself. This is their DIY version. If you want to hear more about that, subscribe to the channel. That's coming up. And I also have their 36K 4-head unit going in. And I'll show you how to do that. I haven't seen a lot of people do this kind of video. So hopefully you can do that. And if this video was helpful to you, give me a like. Hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos, go ahead and comment and tell me what you're interested in. Thanks a lot for watching.
I ain't surprised at all. Seen them rise and fall. Went up the mountain, it wasn't hard to climb at all. At the top, I found some relief. I finally got some peace. Carry on, but please don't mess up the mood. Yeah, I worked too hard for it. No, I need to beat it before you mess up the mood.